Hey there, I'm Chloe Geyer. I'm the communications staffer here at Emmanuel United Methodist Church. This Lenten season, we're inviting you to pull up a chair and take a closer look at the different tables Jesus sat at. The ones he was invited to, the ones he welcomed others to, and even, most scandalously, the ones he invited himself to. There's so much to talk about that we just can't fit it all into a Sunday morning. And so we created this space for a longer, more thoughtful conversation about the scripture and sermons that you'll hear each week. So pull up a chair and join us at the table.
Hey everybody, my name is Pastor Trevor. I'm the lead pastor at Emmanuel United Methodist Church. It's good to be with you this day. We are currently going through Lent together, and for us here at church now in this season, we just started. We just had Ash Wednesday, and now we are moving day by day throughout the Lenten season. Ash Wednesday is a liturgical service that some denominations participate in and others don't. So depending on your background, you may have deep experience with Ash Wednesday. You may understand all the intricacies. You may have had many worship services throughout your life where you got to experience this concept of coming to truth with your mortality and what that means as a follower of Jesus and how your life is different because of it. And so some of you really might not have an understanding of what Ash Wednesday is, and other than you've seen some Christians, right? Some followers of Jesus with ashes marked on their forehead, walking around all day and wondering, what are they doing? I grew up in a church that didn't put a lot of value in the church calendar, understanding the way Christians can take a whole year and really have intentional times around Jesus' birth, which we all do that with Christmas, right? Or Jesus' resurrection with Easter. But to know that there's so much more that exists. And there's a ritual aspect of it, and for some followers of Jesus, we can read passages in Scripture that question rituals because they're wondering where's the heart in it, right? I did not grow up in a liturgical church, and so being United Methodist now, it took me a minute to understand what all was going on, and I have found great value in tying my life to the seasons of the church. And Ash Wednesday is the start of this season of Lent. Lent's this 40 days that we set apart. And it's not counting Sundays, right? But these 40 days that we set apart to draw closer to God, to be intentional, even more so than the rest of the year, about following Jesus, seeing what Jesus is doing, and understanding that we're called to be the kind of Christians who follow Jesus closely. Ash Wednesday is so intriguing because you get ashes, and these ashes that are used are from palm leaves from Palm Sunday. And Palm Sunday is the Sunday before Easter when Jesus is marching into Jerusalem, a triumphal entry. We'll talk about Palm Sunday later, but it's a moment of celebration. It's a moment of hope, of calling for Jesus to save us. And so what we do is we take the ashes from Palm Sunday, which occurs after Ash Wednesday. We let them dry out through the year. We burn these palm leaves, and these become the ashes that remind us of our mortality. They remind us that we were created by God from the dirt, from the dust. And not only were we created from the dust, but the reality of being human is that we're going to return to the dust, right? That none of us escape death. And that is sobering a little bit. And it could get you stuck in a place of what a friend of mine would call staring into the abyss, right? Like thinking about death and staring into the abyss. And I don't know about you, but I don't love staring into the abyss, right? I like my life and my faith journey to have a lot of joy. Ash Wednesday creates a tension for us. Creates a tension that says, God created you from nothing, from dirt, from dust. And once again, at some point, this life will end and you will be dust. The prophet Joel is often read during Ash Wednesday because the prophet Joel, God has sent him to prophesy to help bring God's people back to God. Knowing that God's people throughout the scriptures, we see that God's people tend to wander. There's that song, "Prone to Wander, Lord, I feel it." This is true for humans also. We love Jesus, right? We are very intentional about following Jesus. And it's so easy for us to wonder, to forget, to step back, to lose practice. And so the prophet Joel is speaking to God's people, and he's saying, what I want you to do is to fast and pray and return to God. There was this time of where fasting and prayer would often look like a spectacle to make sure people knew you were fasting, right? So you would let yourself get dirty and your hair disheveled and your beard grow. You would let your clothes get dirty. They would become ratted and torn. And it'd be like public weeping and making sure people knew, look at me, I'm fasting, I'm doing what God has called me to do. And this is where the tension with ritual comes in, right? Because ritual by itself is not the purpose. The prophet Joel reframes this ritual. And he tells God's people, don't rend your clothes, right? Don't tear your clothes. Don't make it look like you have sorrow, but instead rend your hearts, right? Like take a moment to reflect, to really embrace this truth that our lives are finite, to embrace this reality that we do fall short, that God has called us to something, and in some time, some season, some ways we live up to it well. I know that's true because there are other people who love Jesus because you love Jesus, right? So there are ways in which we can follow God well, but there's this truth that it's not all that it could be. And so Joel says, rend your hearts, right? Reflect, pause, see the ways in which you fall short. Come back to God with weeping, with sorrow. Your ritual, whatever it is, and Lent is a ritual, Ash Wednesday is a ritual, Easter, Christmas, all rituals. These rituals are supposed to point us to Jesus, to bring us closer to God. Joel says, come back. And so when you embrace your mortality, when you think about all the ways that you've fallen short, it could send you down a spiral of not being enough, of guilt, of shame, of loss, right? When we think about death, we think about all of those that we've lost in our lives, that we've loved. It could send us down this space, and I think we're supposed to hold that space for a moment. But there's a beauty about returning to God, and it comes in the gospel story. This is the first year that I have made this connection. It seems so obvious now, but there is this gospel, this parable in the Gospels from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15. You may know it. It's the parable of all the lost things. It's the lost sheep, right? The 99 remain, but one runs away, so Jesus leaves the 99 to get the one. And it's the parable of the lost coin, where the woman who lost her coin and turns everything over to find it. And then Luke 15 ends with this parable of, sometimes it's called the parable of the lost son, or the parable of the prodigal son. And it's about this son who squanders everything his father has given him. And in this, and there's like 70,000 sermons in here. I don't want to go down all those roles. I want to tie it to what's happening here. But the son asks for his inheritance before his father has died, right? Which is like, I wish you were dead. And he goes. He breaks tradition. He leaves home. He's not worried about anything that's happening in this life that has been given to him. And he goes down his own path. And he says he makes a lot of bad choices, right? He spends it on frivolity. And he gets to this point, this son, this lost son, where he is so lost and hungry and regretting all of his choices, and he's eating food from a pig trough just to survive, where he finally realizes, this is not the life that I was supposed to live. There are so many mistakes that I have made. And he thinks back to his dad, to this father. And he says, my dad has all these servants, right? These people that work the land and help just around the natural rhythms of life. And he says, maybe if I could go back and just be one of dad's helping hands. I don't even need to be a son anymore. But if I could go back that way, then I could be fed. I could have shelter. I could reset. And he's worried about coming back. And on his journey back, he decides he's coming back. And on his journey back, he is saying to himself over and over, like trying to come up with, what do I say to my dad? How do I apologize? How do I ask for forgiveness? How do I say, I don't need to be a son again, but can I just please work the land and be fed? And he thinks about, and he's stuck, right, in his guilt and his shame. And the scripture says, when the son was still a long way off, the father saw him. If something is a long way off and you see it, chances are you're looking for it, right? So imagine this son. We know the story of the son who's caught up in his own life and worried about everything. But then we have this father who has been looking, watching, waiting for his son to return. And so when his son's walking back, the son doesn't even have time to say anything to his father because the dad, he runs, right? This is not what you did in first century Judaism, right? You didn't, old men didn't go running in general. But he takes off running towards his son. He embraces him. He hugs him. Right? And I imagine with tears, with this sense of relief and love and compassion. He doesn't hear anything his son has to say because his son has returned. And he yells, right? Kill the fatted calf. My son was lost, and now he's been found. My son was gone, and now he's returned. Let's go back to Ash Wednesday. We become the son. Understanding, not in a guilt and shameful way, but there's a life that could be ours, a life connected to God, to the Father. I don't always love father imagery for God. There is mother image for God as well that is beautiful and timely and important. This is the one time where I really embrace the father image, tying it to this story of the prodigal son. We embrace our mortality. We realize we fall short. We take a moment to reflect upon our life. And we see that there's an invitation to return to God always. And I don't necessarily mean that you have completely pushed God aside. Sometimes we do. I've been through seasons of life where that's true. But sometimes, but there's also just this realization that there's a connection with God that could be stronger, that could be more. That God would have us do things that are good and beautiful. And whenever we doubt what that is, I'm reminded Jesus in John 10:10 says, I have come so that you may have life and have it to the fullest. That's the life we're talking about, right? To return to come to. And we may be curious about what we deserve if we've got a lot of guilt and shame. If we reflect on all the mistakes we've made, the people we've hurt, the ways we've been hurt, the times we've stared into the abyss and wondered, what the heck is up with this life? But there is such a reminder here. We should realize those things. We should see what's keeping us from the life that God has for us. We should reflect. We should weep. We should tear our hearts. We should be honest, so honest. We should understand that we've come from the dust, that God had created us, and that our lives are finite. And when we return to God, we are met with nothing but love, with joy, with celebration, with a hug, and tears of joy, with reconciliation and redemption. And a party is thrown. And so for Lent, what we're doing is we're looking at these tables that Jesus was at, and we're going to pull up a chair alongside Jesus to see what it's like to sit at the table with God, to be invited to the feast, to see who else is at the table, so that our lives may be different because of this intentional time of following Jesus from table to table. We're going to eat together. We are going to rejoice. We are going to celebrate. This upcoming Sunday will be Lent 1 for us here at Emmanuel. And one of the very first tables that Jesus goes to in the Gospel of John, it goes straight from prepare the way of the Lord and make your path straight to Jesus at a wedding. As a grown-up, the very first table he's at is a wedding banquet. And this wedding banquet is the Cana of Galilee. Is in Cana of Galilee. It's John 2. So if you want to open that up and look at it, you're welcome. Read through John 2. Jesus is at this wedding. He's got some of his disciples. So in John's gospel, we're a little further into Jesus' life than in some of the other gospels where you start with his birth. And Jesus' mom, Mary, the mother of Jesus, notices that the party's been going on for a while of this newly married couple, and the wine is running out. And Mary knows some things that the rest of the folks don't know, and that is who Jesus is. You know, I don't know what your relationship with your parents is like, but this is such, at least me and my kids, this is what this is like. Jesus' mother, Mary, says to him, hey, we're out of wine. I need you to do your thing, right? We need your help. And if you don't know, the help is get us more wine, Lord. However you do it, Jesus, Son of God, right? However you're going to do it, get us more wine. And Jesus says to his mom, what? No, not yet. Like, the time's not come. There's so much to do to prepare. Right, I've got my disciples, and it's just a very raw moment between a mother and a son. And Mary turns to the servants and says, do whatever he tells you to do. Right? Like, she's just not hearing it. She's like, Jesus, now is the time. I'm your mother. Now is the time. Let's do this, right? And so he tells the servants, do whatever Jesus tells you to do. And so Jesus says, okay, get those jars of water. And these are like purification jars, right? Which is just this beautiful story of ritual and legalism and what you have to do in order to be clean. And we're going to see this play out throughout all of the Gospels on who Jesus is inviting to the table and where Jesus makes synagogues appear not in a synagogue so that unclean people can be a part of what God is doing. And so they grab the jars, and it's, I don't remember, 120 to 150 gallons of purification water that was set aside. And Jesus turns that water into wine. Like, that's a lot of wine. right? Like that is, it wasn't like, okay, yeah, let's bring up some more from the cellar. Here's a little more to keep this going. This is like, this wedding could go for days and days and days now, this celebration, because of how much wine there is. Often at church, and this happened in our Ash Wednesday service, you never know how many people are going to come to worship in different ways, and especially a very unique Ash Wednesday worship service. And I told some of the other pastor staff and our worship leaders, hey, I just want to make sure we have enough bread set out, because we only had one loaf. And they said, pretty sure it's enough bread. I was like, I don't know. I just want to be prepared. I'd hate to run out and not have enough. And they looked at me and were like, it's enough. And I was like, okay, I hear you. But what if we just got some more bread out anyway, right? And so they looked at me, they wondered, and I was like, how much is a loaf of bread? $5? I will give you $5 if you go get a loaf of bread so that we have it for tonight. Even if we don't open it, even if we don't use it, I just want there to be enough. And so what I love about this moment, it is a reminder that I'm not crazy, right? That this is who God calls us to be. Not wasteful, but extravagant. This goes back to the prodigal son. I've always found it interesting that we call it the prodigal son, because the prodigal means like extravagant and maybe too much, maybe wasteful. And yeah, the son is wasted, but I also think it's a descriptor of the Father's love, right? That isn't worried about what you deserve as a response to the things that you've done, but it is a love that says this is who you are at your core. You are beloved. You are a beloved child. You deserve to be loved. There is more than enough for you here. And so Jesus, his very first public miracle in the Gospel of John, turns water into wine and makes an extravagant amount. And not only extravagant in volume, right? But the host of the party says, oh my gosh, most people, when they're bringing wine this far, when everybody's drunk already, they're bringing the stuff that you can't tell because your taste buds are gone, right? You're not fully present with how something tastes, so what does it matter now, right? You're drinking it to consume alcohol at this point. And he says, you have brought the best wine. Like, this is good. This is so good. And I think that is also this beautiful, like, it could be wasteful. Why would you waste the good stuff when it seems to not matter? But this is who Jesus is. The good stuff is in abundance. It's always there, regardless of where you are. And it's an invitation that the party can continue. Right? Not only that a party can continue and people can be able to continue to celebrate and rejoice, but I think there's also something in the value of this newly married couple that if they are celebrating and they run out and they send you home, it could feel, it can play into your value. We have meals at the church on Wednesday night, and I always encourage everybody who's helping participate and cook and buy, get more than enough, right? I would rather send people home with leftovers than have to turn someone away because we don't have anything. This is who God is. This is who we're supposed to be as followers of Jesus. This is who we're supposed to be as the church. This is one table. We are going to explore many tables. We're going to see who Jesus invites. We're going to see where Jesus shows up and says, you're going to invite me to your table. We're going to follow God, eating together along the way. Holy Communion. In the United Methodist Church, we do it once a month. I wish we did it every week. We're going to do it every week during Lent. But it's supposed to be a reminder of the everyday things that are present at your table. Right? It used to be bread and wine were the everyday present elements at your table. But anytime we eat, anytime we share a meal, we are reminded that we are followers of Jesus who are to love, who are to be extravagant, who are to be reflective and not afraid to return home, who are to care about reconciliation and redemption. Join us throughout the remainder of Lent as we go table to table with Jesus. Pull up a chair. You are invited.